It's an interesting thing. Intimacy is this place where I can crack my chest open and I can show you who I am. I can show you what's important to me, and you're not in control of that. Now we want everyone. It would seem like almost it could seem like heaven, where with everyone was able to walk around with their chests open all the time, without fear. Knowing that every time someone responds to you, they respond to you with your heart in mind. Your heart in their mind. That those things that we have declared as valuable to us, people around us are protecting. Wouldn't that be like, it would feel like heaven, right? We use a lot of metaphors for heaven, right? Sometimes we have pictures of lions laying down with lambs, and sometimes people actually picture heaven as a place where no one has to make any more decisions, or at least no wrong decisions can ever be made again. Sometimes we see heaven as this place where it's just going to be eating grapes and hearing the harps of the angels, as they're playing. A lot of times we have all these different pictures of heaven, but another way of thinking about heaven would be, it's going to be a safe place. It's going to be a safe place for my heart. My heart will never be hurt there. Right? So intimacy, this invitation. And we also know that heaven is this culture of invitation. We've been pushing up against this paradigm of control, right? We've been pushing up against this paradigm of, why do people control? Well, we control because we're afraid. And so if I'm afraid of what you're going to do, if I can't anticipate your behavior, and I'm afraid your behavior is going to hurt me, I end up rising up to control your behavior. So I'm ultimately just protecting my heart, right? But what if the idea of control, which comes from a place of fear, doesn't even exist in heaven? Because God's not trying to control anything either. He's not trying to control anyone. Because He's not afraid of you. No fear, because He is full of love. And love displaces fear. You remember these things we've been talking about. So, last time we were together and I was teaching on this, I left off at this point that I want to start today. And it says this: intimacy, this intimacy invitation, that heaven is always inviting us. Not imposing itself, just always inviting us. Always inviting us. The intimacy's invitation is my capacity to open up my chest and let you see me, so that you can see my heart, and I don't require you to do anything with it. See, intimacy's invitation is, let me show you who I really am. Let me show you what's really going on inside of me. And I'm not showing you that you would do anything with it. It's just an invitation. It's just, I'm not afraid if you accept that or don't, if you devalue that or you do. Intimacy's invitation is, I'm going to walk around inviting people into intimacy. And then I wait, and I watch, and I see how are they going to manage what I have just revealed to them. How they manage that, how they protect that, how they value that will determine how intimate they would like to become with me. They don't direct my intimacy. I direct it with an invitation. And I let people decide, how are they going to value that? To the level they value that, I might even go show them more. I might even give them more. I might display more of my heart to them. But at first, I'm going to walk around as an intimacy inviter. I don't even know if that works. I don't know if I can picture that, right? But see, here's the deal. As we experience each other's response to our invitation, what they do, how they decide to manage my heart will reveal to me the level of relationship they want with me. But I am not going to walk around with a closed heart, afraid of what people are going to do to my heart. That is living a life of fear. That's being controlled by fear, right? But if I'm controlled by love, does that even work? Controlled by love? That's an interesting way to put those words after I just said that it's the opposite. So maybe we need to choose a different way. If I'm invited, if I'm led by love, if I'm influenced by love, then love is going to say, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I live fearlessly. I'm in perfect control of myself. You aren't. Yippee! Right? I'm in perfect control of myself, and now I can walk. I can actually walk at a level of exposure that some might think, oh my gosh, how can they do that? Aren't they afraid of someone hurting their heart? Genesis has this beautiful verse in it, and it's just, I gotta find it now. Genesis 2:25. It says, and the man and his wife were both naked and were unashamed. There's, we ended with that last time we were together, but that verse about this idea of nakedness, and I'm not talking about physical nakedness, it's a metaphor. Understand that I'm going for a metaphor here, but it's this idea of walking around transparent. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of what you see. In fact of the matter, I value what you see. Will you value what you see? Will you value what I show you? And to the level of your value of what I show you will be the floor of our relationship. And the more you value that, the higher our floor gets. Because we don't have a ceiling to relationships. Well, maybe we do. Obviously there are, maybe not a ceiling to transparency, but relationships, we do have different levels and layers of relationship. And at some place in our circles of relationship, there is that zone that's only made for one. That most intimate relationship that you have, that most. So there are ceilings to relationships in that way. But not in the idea of transparency. I can show you my heart. And people can interact at the level that they choose. Does that make sense? Because I really think that there's something that goes on inside of humanity, and I think it's general for all of us. And it doesn't matter what backgrounds we've come from, what trainings we have, what where we've lived culturally or anything like that. It's just this aspect. I think that in every human heart, we want to be known. We want someone to know us. And in that knowing, we want to be safe, right? And in that safety, that there's this acceptance and this transparency that takes place, which brings this euphoria inside of us. This brings this sense of, I'm not rejected. I'm accepted. I'm not unvaluable. I am valuable. That someone finds me precious. Would you agree that probably in every human heart, I would think, we all have that longing to be valued. They all have that longing to be fully known and accepted. I think that's part of our design. I think that's how we've been made. And so we have this place that when we can live in this place, I'm known and I'm accepted. I think that's where that joy rubs. I think joy comes out of that place. This fruit of joy rises up out of us when we know that we're known and we're not rejected. I really think that might be even that birthplace of joy inside of us, that we were designed for it. And wouldn't that make sense, though, that even in the whole redemption process, that God is in, that He pressed into and pursued until once and for all He said, do you see how valuable you are? Do you see that I see you intimately? I see you. I see every aspect of you, and I'm not rejecting you. I made you. I designed you. I value you. Stop living in the lie that I've rejected you. I've not rejected you. So there's this place of design. There's this place of purpose and value. There's this place of intimacy that we can express ourselves in transparency and we can be accepted. This place of intimacy. It's interesting, it seems like the world defines the purpose of connection. The purpose of connection is to get needs met. And if that premise is true, then what happens is the focus of connection, the focus of relationship is me. It's always me in the relationship. It's like what Danny was saying on that video clip, this idea that if the goal of communication is not understanding, then what happens is the goal of communication is to get you to agree with me. And so we stay in this place of tension until one person disappears. Does that make sense? If the goal of relationship is connection, and the goal of connection is to understand, boy, that changes it up. Now, I can understand your heart. It doesn't mean I need to agree with you, but I see your heart, and I will value what you have said is important to you. I will make it a value to me. Even though I might not be in agreement with it, or with what's going on, it's important to you. And because you're important to me, I will value what you have said is important to you. It doesn't necessarily mean agreement, though. It can, but it doesn't have to. But see, in a world that's trying to meet need, if relationships are about meeting need, if connections are about meeting need, it's me focused. The goal is me, and so the world continues to need to find value by how you respond to me, how you are agreeing with me. But if heaven's working from a different connection, if heaven defines the purpose of connection as understanding, as the revealing of the value in another and the choice to value another, you see, the other is the focus. It's not me any longer. It's now the other. My goal is no longer me. My goal is the other. It's you, right? My value, I'm not looking to you for my value. I already know where my value comes from. My value comes from the one who made me. My value comes from my designer. My value comes from the purpose that comes from knowing the one who made me. See? Because I know who I am, my place of identity is established. My place of peace is in my identity, not in what you think about me, or whether you will agree with me or not. I'm free to engage you no matter what idea you have. No matter what's important to you, I'm free to engage you, and I can value you. Jesus was brilliant at this. Jesus was brilliant. He would walk into environments that he did not agree with. He walked into cultures, different ways of living and behaviors, and he engaged people with all different kinds of stuff going on in their lives, and he didn't have to agree with them in order to engage. Now the Pharisees said, you can't hang around those people because they don't act like we should act, right? And Jesus was able to walk in and hang out. And of course, he was ridiculed for that. He was persecuted for that, right? He was called a friend of sinners. He hung out with the harlots. He hung out with the tax collectors. He hung out with the thieves. He would hang out with people. He didn't get contaminated by them, but because of his surety in who he was and who he knew himself to be, he was able to impact the environment around him. It's an interesting thing. The belief you carry about you is vital to you living out your identity. The belief you carry about you is your identity. And so where do you get the beliefs about you? If you get the beliefs about you through what people say about you, then guess who your God is? Because your identity comes from that which you hold the most high value in. See, when you know who you are, and in this context, of course, we're talking about us knowing who we are because we're connected to the one who made us, right? This designer, our Father in heaven. When you know who you are, now I'm able to engage others in freedom. I'm able to engage others in freedom because I'm no longer fearful. I'm actually a fearless one. How would you like to be called a fearless one? Galatians 5:1 says this: Christ defines your faith. In other words, Christ defines your belief. Christ defines your confidence, right? Faith is the confidence of things hoped for. And so Christ defines your faith. In the umbrella of Christendom, Christ is the reference point for us. He is the defining factor. He's our reference. He's the one we look to. And so he says in Galatians 5:1, Christ defines your confidence in your faith. He is your freedom from anything the law could never free you from. Find your firm footing in this freedom. And do not let religion trip you up again and harness you into a system of rules and obligations. Paul was talking to the Galatians and he was saying, guys, you have found your freedom. Your reference point has changed from the law of doing things to identify, to understand your value, to this place of, your value is in a person. Your value is in this identification with the person who has said, here, let me show you how valuable you are. In Galatians 5:5 then says, our minds are made up. There is absolutely no advantage to anyone to pursue righteousness in the flesh. Righteousness is a spiritual dimension reality. It's a spirit dimension reality, and it can only be grasped by faith, by belief, by confidence. What God believes is our exclusive reference. In other words, another way to say it is, what God believes about you is the most important thing. I know this analogy could break down, it probably breaks down easily, but just work with me for a little bit. It's like the pot trying to tell the potter who it is. I'm a fish. I'm a fish. I know I'm a fish. And the potter's going, whatever. You know? How's that working out for you? You know? I don't know if God actually says that, but I can see him say that. Because he's not trying to control us. He's inviting us. So as we make our choices and go down this road and go down that road and take that turn or that turn, lovingly he continues to invite us forward, and he goes, okay, how's that working out for you? Come on. Okay, how's it working out for you? It's different. It's a whole different paradigm to think of heaven to think of God as an inviter rather than a controller. So you think of God as a controller, I think, oh, can't go this way. No, can't go this way. No, oh, why did you go that way? Right? Versus, come on, you forgot who you were. That's why you turned left. You were supposed to go straight. Right, come here. Let me bring you back. So that's the idea of discipline. Discipline not being a punishment, but a discipline as someone actually taking your face and redirecting your eyesight. Oh, that's where I'm supposed to go. Oh, but I really want to go this way. Yeah, but come here, let me invite you over here. It's this redirecting, right? So, it's amazing. Fear, distance, self-preservation, they create an experience that was never supposed to be a part of our experience. Fear, distance, self-preservation. Those were things that we began to experience when we stepped out of our identity. But in identity, in this place of peace, in this place of knowing who we are, because we know the one who made us, fear, distance, and self-preservation, they were never part of God's heart for us. Those are things that happen outside of love. See, inside of love, we have love versus fear. We have connection versus distance. Right? 2 Timothy says in 1:7, it says, "For God has not given us a spirit of timidity, and not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of self-control," or discipline. Here's what happens, though. And you see it, and you're fully aware of it. When you see people around you, when they're disconnected from identity, when they're disconnected from purpose, right? They're disconnected from purpose. They're disconnected from value. They're disconnected from love. What happens is intimacy, there's something about intimacy that we're made for it. And so people continue to want to engage in intimacy, but they're engaging in wrong ways. They're engaging in wrong places. They're looking for value where no value can come from. And we call those addictions. People's hearts are longing for transparency. They're longing to crack open. They're longing to show someone. And they're saying, "Here, I want to show you my heart. And will you value me?" And so we have all these different addictions, that attempts to create intimacy through relationships with wrong objects. And we probably, I would bet you that in every one of our lives. Now, maybe someone in here, I could be misinterpreting you, and so please forgive me, but let's just is it possible that in every one of our lives, we have attempted to go elsewhere other than our Maker for our value? And in some of those areas where we've gone there repeatedly. We've gone there more than once. Even the first time we went, although it might have given us a short fulfillment, maybe in an hour or something like that, maybe even 10 minutes, whatever it would be, it gave us a short, maybe it was just an escape of pain, whatever that was, but it just gave us a short bit of relief. And even in that moment, we said, this is empty, this really isn't making, this doesn't matter, this isn't really what I'm really longing for. But we found ourselves, we've gone back there again, and we've gone back there again, go back. And it could be ice cream, you guys. It could be chocolate chip mint ice cream. It could be sea salt caramel. It could be hot chocolate. It could be pornography. It could be overeating. It could be undereating. It could be exercise. You put it in there. You know what I'm saying? Addictions. What is it? It could be alcohol. It could be drugs. Artificial stimulus. But the idea there is ultimately, work with me. I think every addiction has its root in a person's need to know that they're loved. See, intimacy is so woven into our beings that the Satan uses counterfeits like alcohol, drugs, pornography, food to give you a relationship with something that you can control. At least you think you can. Addictions happen when people are in pain or distracted and can't find the euphoria of true intimacy that they're longing for, to know that they're valued. And so what do? We begin to self-medicate. We take care of it ourselves. And so in relationships, if we don't know how to create and protect intimacy in our relationships, then what will happen is we'll have this growing pain that will come up within us, and we will begin to look to self-medicate it. At some point in time, it will begin to be too much for us to throw over here or to hide behind this door, to put under that rug, it will get to the place where actually it will expose itself. You might live in denial of it, but all those around you will see it. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, in this journey of intimacy, in this journey of transparency, in this journey of connection, the desire is that I'm so connected to my identity that I'm not afraid to walk around and inviting people into levels of intimacy. And then based upon their response to that transparency will let me know where they're at in their ability to protect and value my heart. See, one of the things that we don't want to communicate is that I got to walk around. I don't want to communicate that it's your responsibility that you have an intimate relationship with everyone. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is living fearlessly, inviting people into relationship, and let them determine the level that they can walk with you at. Okay? It's interesting too, in the midst of relationships, there's this place of communication. And in the ways we communicate to it, in the words that we use with each other, which are very, very important. And when we get together next week, what I'd like to do is I'd like to walk through ways of communicating that communicate love and or connection, or communicate fear or disconnection. Okay? And maybe we can get some tools of communication that can help each other understand, that we can actually know that in the conversation that's happening with each other, with let's say, a relationship happens in its microcosm, there has to be at least two, right? And so in that relationship of at least two, that we can walk through some of this, understanding the ideas of passive and aggressive communication, understanding the issues of passive-aggressive communication, the different people that we will engage, and the place that they're going to be at when we begin the relationship, whatever that is. And will we be able to identify where they're at, or will we begin to require them to do some things in order to begin a relationship? Those kinds of things. I want to press into a little bit of that, review some types of communication next week, and then also I want some communication styles, and getting to the place where we recognize that in every one of our lives we have perceived needs. And when we engage each other in relationships, those perceived needs come with us. And how do we interact with each other's perceived needs? How do we value and honor those perceived needs? And how do we help each other move through life? Reminding each other of who we really are. Encouraging one another forward. So we can get on some of that stuff next week, but